Hello MotoGP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Trackhouse team principal Davide Brivio has delivered a measured verdict on the 2025 MotoGP season. While Ducati remained the benchmark, Aprilia closed insignificantly as the year progressed. Brivio credits Noale's development work and the RSGP's late surge for making races more unpredictable and tightening the title fight. Aprilia Racing has set the date for its 2026 season launch, Milan, January 15th, as the Noale factory balances on-track momentum with a strategic engineering decision when to switch resources from the successful 1,000 cubic centimeters RSGP to the new 850 cubic centimeters prototype. We unpack the timing, the technical choices, and why Aprilia's strong late-season form makes this a complicated and interesting off-season. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Brivio opened with a simple, striking conclusion. When you run the numbers and watch the races, Aprilia made tangible gains on a team that has dominated the sport. That's not faint praise. Ducati still delivered spectacular results and a world title. But Brivio's point is that the balance of power shifted noticeably during the campaign. His assessment reframes 2025, less a single-team procession and more a year in which developmental momentum mattered almost as much as raw specification. However you look at it, the gap to Ducati has been reduced. Saying the gap was reduced isn't to deny Ducati's overall superiority. It's to recognize that Aprilia's step forward changed weekend dynamics, strategic thinking, and how rivals planned races toward the season's end. Brivio reminded listeners of how overwhelming Ducati's start to the year looked, multiple Mercedes filling the podium repeatedly and setting an early tone of near invincibility. But as the season unfolded, that pattern loosened. The second half of the year saw more variety at the front. Aprilia, KTM, and even Honda disrupted the script. That transition made race weekends less predictable and increased the number of tactical permutations teams had to prepare for, from tire choices to fuel maps and when to push for sprints versus main race pace. There were 3, 4, 5 Ducatis always in front. That early saturation created a benchmark, yet by the finish the grid showed more scatter. A sign not just of Aprilia's rise but of a paddock adapting to new developments, rival upgrades, and the inevitable effects of injuries to key figures. Brivio singled out Aprilia's methodical engineering push as the engine of their improvement. It wasn't one revolutionary part but dozens of disciplined updates, tweaks to aero, chassis refinement, setup processes, and the small operational gains that compound into race wins. The RSGP's late-season victories reflect a program that learned quickly from early setbacks, tightened procedures in the garage, and extracted more consistent race pace across tracks that previously favored Ducati's strengths. How Aprilia has improved through the season with many small things, small updates, tidying up a few operations and stuff like that. That kind of development narrative matters because MotoGP progress is rarely a single headline upgrade. It's often the sum of incremental improvements multiplied across 2 factory teams and satellite efforts. Beyond trophies and statistics, Brivio stressed what the narrowing gap delivered to the championship spectacle: unpredictability. With Ducati still the team to beat, rivals closing the performance delta forced more strategic variety and made sprint races and Grand Prix outcomes less formulaic. He congratulated Aprilia for forcing that shift, while reminding viewers that Ducati's resource depth and talent still make them the yardstick, but one that now faces a faster, hungrier field. For sure, it's a credit to Aprilia for the progress made during the season. In practical terms, a closer field means every test day, every shakedown, and every tire allocation in 2026 will carry higher stakes, and teams that iterate fastest will reap the rewards. Davide Brivio's appraisal is pragmatic. Ducati remains the benchmark, but Aprilia's rise reshaped the narrative of 2025. Whether that momentum turns into a sustained title challenge will depend on winter development, injury recoveries, and how riders and engineers respond to rule changes on the horizon. For now, the paddock has a new storyline, one where the fight at the front is less predetermined and more compelling for teams and fans alike. Aprilia confirmed it will hold its official 2026 season launch in Milan on January 15th, placing it in a hectic week of team unveilings that also includes Pramac on the 13th, VR46 on the 14th, and Ducati on the 19th. The Milan launch, expected to be staged at Sky's studios and broadcast on Aprilia's channels, is more than a PR date. It's the moment Aprilia sets expectations for 2026, reveals the new livery, and shows how it intends to build on its best Premier Class season to date. The factory Aprilia squad will launch its 2026 season in Milan on January 15th. Quote from an Aprilia spokesperson. With multiple high-profile launches clustered in mid-January, teams will be jockeying not only for headlines but for early sponsor and media momentum ahead of the Sepping shakedown. Behind the launch plans sits a major technical story. Aprilia's 850cc engine is already bench running, a key milestone on the path to the 2027 regulations that downsize MotoGP power units. CEO Massimo Rivola told Crash.net the company is very happy with bench progress. The unit is running and the project is moving forward, but Noale has to decide how much development to keep pushing on the current 1000cc RSGP in 2026 before a deeper transfer of resources to the 850cc program. The 850cc engine is ready. The engine is running. Quote from Massimo Rivola. Bench validation removes a critical unknown, but translating a running engine into a competitive track package requires chassis integration, aero testing, tire validation, and track time, all the things that will compete for engineering hours in Noale next spring. Aprilia's dilemma is a classic one for manufacturers in transition. Keep developing the 1000cc bike to contest the 2026 title, especially after wins and a top 3 riders finish, or begin an earlier, heavier investment in the 850cc to get a head start on 2027. Rivola acknowledged the question is strategic. How long do we push the 26 bike? The team's recent success gives it leverage to stretch 2026 development, but that same success raises the stakes of any delayed 850cc program if rivals gain an early lead. We need to think, okay, what is the strategy? We push the 26 bike development, until which point? Quote from the technical discussion. In practice, that means a phased approach is likely. Bench and limited shakedown work for the 850cc now, then a clearer crossover point in early 2026 once the championship picture and resource needs are clearer. Aprilia arrives at this crossroads with momentum. Marco Bezzecchi and the RSGP delivered multiple victories late in the season, lifting the team into a genuine title conversation for 2026. That makes the timing decision highly tactical. Push the 2026 development program to maximize short-term championship chances, or accept a possible performance dip now to be better prepared for the rules reset. Technical Director Fabiano Sterlicchini has suggested the main development crossover could fall around March or April 2026, when teams will better understand both on-track performance and the workload required for a full 850cc rollout. We have an idea, but obviously it also depends on how the championship goes next year. Quote from a team source. With Pirelli replacing Michelin in 2027 and stricter aero and ride height rules incoming, early choices on engine architecture and tire development will reverberate. So Noale's cautious, measured timetable makes commercial and competitive sense. Aprilia's Milan launch on January 15th will be both celebration and signaling, a chance to show the 2026 RSGP, to capitalize on late-season momentum, and to lay out how Noale intends to manage the tricky handover to 850cc rules. The engineering story is already unfolding, a bench-running 850cc engine, but the strategic choice about when to shift resources will be one of the season's quiet, high-impact decisions. Expect a phased plan, key calendar calls in March, April 2026, and plenty of attention on how Aprilia balances winning now with being ready for the technical reset. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!